Did you see this MSNBC clip? I mean, obviously we know what MSNBC is. We know that MSNBC is basically an arm of the Democratic Party. Carne Verde, can Sadiscu interview the candidate supporters on the other side of the roped-off areas this time? If the DNC doesn't try and use them as props and forbid the media from going near them, if you didn't watch in Miami, they literally used human beings as props. They had them hold up signs for their candidate, but roped them off so nobody could go up and interview them. I've never seen anything like it. They're human mannequins. So, this MSNBC clip, I've seen a lot of things on MSNBC. They lie all the time. There was an anchor who literally showed a poll that showed Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren tied and said Elizabeth Warren is taking the lead over Bernie Sanders. Like, stuff like that. Just like glaringly lying. But it's different when you have people on that just release all this vitriol against. It's one thing if you are like just like a corporate Democrat hack who doesn't want Medicare for all. Okay, I could deal with that. We'll debate it. We'll show that you're, greedy. We'll show that you probably have a conflict of interest. But at least like it's on a policy. But the people that MSNBC are having on are so deranged about Bernie Sanders, you have to wonder, does it go higher? Why are they so deranged about Bernie Sanders? May Ed Schultz, the great host, rest in peace. Remember in 2015, when he was still at MSNBC, he had gone up to Burlington, Vermont for MSNBC to interview Bernie Sanders. He was about to start his show, The Ed Show, live with an interview with Bernie Sanders. And Phil Griffin, the president of MSNBC, shut him down. Said, you are not interviewing Bernie Sanders live to lead off this hour. And totally shut him down. And then, shocker, Ed Schultz was later basically let go from MSNBC. Ironically, he was the only one on air against the TPP, and he was the only one trying to give Bernie Sanders fair coverage. He was let go. And he passed away, sadly, I think last year. I loved Ed Schultz. So let's take a look at this. We're going to start with our friend Zerlina Maxwell, who's just completely full of shit, saying things that just are based on nothing other than her strange Bernie derangement. This is MSNBC from this weekend. I think the show is called Up, and they have Zerlina Maxwell and someone else on to spew lies and, frankly, bizarre derangement about Bernie Sanders. Here we go.
So I just want to have you weigh in here as you look at these two candidates side by side, what the differences are. Yep. And I guess a huge one is just how they regard themselves. Bernie Sanders, avowed democratic socialist. Elizabeth Warren, believer in the markets with regulation, a more nuanced, a better patrolled set of markets than we have.
Well, I think it's interesting that you use the word nuanced, because that's actually what I'm thinking about as I compare them. They obviously have the same, similar set of values in terms of what the government should be doing for the American people and how you should regulate that government so that it works for everybody, right? They agree on that. They don't agree on the approach to get there. And in Elizabeth Warren's case, I actually know in detail how she wants to get there. And I would say that in Bernie Sanders' case, there are certain policies like Medicare for All that he put out a lot more detail than some of his other ideas. I don't have as much of the detail of how we're going to transform the healthcare industry, to quote, something he says all the time, right? And so how are you going to transform it? Elizabeth Warren, on the one hand, will tell me exactly how. Sometimes Bernie Sanders does not. So I think it's very important to have them on the same stage at a debate so you can make that direct comparison. You don't need to pay attention to political analysts like me, where I'm saying one is a little bit more heavy on the details than the other. You'll be able to see that.
So this was the more timid, this was the more mild criticism. Again, it's not based on anything in fact. Actually, as I'm about to show you, it's a lie. She says, Bernie Sanders, with plans like Medicare for All, Elizabeth Warren is way more specific on how she's going to do it. How is she going to do it? Way more specific than Bernie. Bernie just throws these things out there, no specifics. Elizabeth Warren has changed basically has floated like the wind on Medicare for All. Not only do we have very little specifics how she'll do it, we don't even know if she'll do it, because she has said a different thing over and over again. Of course, this MSNBC anchor, who's not a journalist, he's a mannequin with makeup on, pretending to be one, doesn't challenge this bullshit. But this is how groupthink and group lies capture the electorate to basically prop up one candidate and prop down another. By the way, Elizabeth Warren, she has good policies. The problem is they keep branding her as this I have a plan person, when in reality, a lot of her plans are recycled Bernie plans. Not just Bernie plans, but a lot of her plans were put forth by other senators that she signed on as a co-sponsor. So props to her for being for the right plans, but she's not exactly reinventing the wheel, as Colin Tooley so wonderfully shows us in this graphic. But MSNBC and Politico and all these places are making it seem like Elizabeth Warren is just so specific. She's got a plan down to, she's like one of those really anal retentive people that have a 10-page itinerary for vacations down to the very minute what you're going to be doing. Not so. So let's hear Elizabeth Warren, what she has to do. If, like Zerlina Maxwell has said, she's so specific on how she's going to transform the healthcare industry and how she's going to do Medicare for all. How specific does this sound to you?
Yes. Look, and in fact, I'd be focused on three things. The first is we need to defend the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans are still attacking it. Lawsuit down in Texas. HHS is doing everything they can to take the legs out of it. Second thing we need to do, we need to pick off the things that are easy, reduce the cost of prescription drugs. I've got a bill to reduce the cost of generic drugs. We need a consumer's bill of rights for insurance, private insurance, so that people don't get ripped off. Same kind of deal I set up for credit card companies. That's part two. And part three, we got to keep moving us to a place where everybody is covered at the lowest possible cost. And there are a lot of different ways to get there. Medicare for All has a lot of different paths for how we get there. But ultimately, it's about making sure that we all adhere to the basic principle. Healthcare is a basic human right. It is our collective responsibility to make sure everybody gets coverage at the lowest possible cost. And Medicare, best way to get there.
I'm sorry. Did I miss where she offered one specific? Did she offer any specifics of how she's going to get cheaper prescription drugs? And again, with the language from Elizabeth Warren, there's plenty of ways to get there. This is the talk of people who are flexible on capital M Medicare for all. This is the talk of people who are flexible on capital M Medicare for all. Okay? Here's another doozy, where Zerlina Maxwell says Elizabeth Warren is super, super specific, and I know how she's going to do it. Well, let's see what she says here during her CNN town hall from a few months ago.
What we're all looking for is the lowest cost way to make sure everybody gets covered. And some folks are talking about, let's start lowering the age. Maybe bring it down to 60, 55, 50. That helps cover people who are most at risk and can be helpful, for example, to the labor's plans. Some people say do it the other way. Let's bring it up from everybody under 30 gets covered by Medicare. Others say let employers be able to buy into the Medicare plans. Others say let's let employees buy into the Medicare plans. For me, what's key is we get everybody at the table on this. That labor's at the table, that people who have to buy on their own, everybody comes to the table together and we figure out how to do Medicare for all in a way that makes sure that we're going to get 100% coverage in this country at the lowest possible cost for everyone.
So you are a co-sponsor of Senator Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill, and I understand there are a lot of different paths to universal coverage, but his bill that you've co-sponsored would essentially eliminate private insurance. Is that something you could support?
He's got a runway for that. I think we get everybody together, and that's what it is. We'll decide.
Yeah, let's just get everybody together, get at the table, and, we'll just work it out. We'll just work it out. Was that what Zerlina Maxwell was speaking about? How specific, Elizabeth Warren, she's so specific. She's so specifical. She's so specific. I know exactly how she's going to do it. And by the way, and to be clear, I know a lot of you don't like it, but I think you're all crazy. If Elizabeth Warren is the nominee, I am going to vote for her over Donald Trump. I don't even think it's To me, it's not even a debate. You vote for whoever you want. I'm not pushing it on you, but I don't know how people could look at Elizabeth Warren versus what you're starting to see at these Trump rallies, which is remnants of Nazi Germany. Like, she's not Hillary Clinton. That's my opinion. I don't think she's going to be the nominee, but I think some people are being a little extreme. You know, she would be way more progressive than Donald Trump on economics. However, I have to point out these pundits on MSNBC, these pundits on CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Politico, everybody that's propping her up as I have a plan, I have a plan. She's been all over the place on Medicare for All. So in that thing, right there, she says, well, you know, he's shown a runway for that. She didn't give a firm answer on whether she's going to abolish private health insurance, which has to be abolished if you're going to have universal health care, single-payer Medicare for all. Again, there could be private doctors, but you cannot have this hierarchical, top-down system of big insurance companies, big pharma. You cannot have it and have a functioning, vibrant, cost-effective, universal government program. You cannot. So in that case, she doesn't give an answer on whether she's going to get rid of private insurance. Well, at the first debate, let's see what she said.
Abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan. Just a show of hands to start off with. All right, well.
So yes, I'm with Bernie on Medicare for All, and let me tell you why. I've spent a big chunk of my life studying why families go broke. And one of the #1 reasons is the cost of health care, medical bills. And that's not just for people who don't have insurance. It's for people who have insurance. Look at the business model of an insurance company. It's to bring in as many dollars as they can in premiums and to pay out as few dollars as possible for your health care. That leaves families with rising premiums, rising co-pays, and fighting with insurance companies to try to get the health care that their doctors say that they and their children need. Medicare for All solves that problem. And I understand there are a lot of politicians who say, oh, it's just not possible, we just can't do it, have a lot of political reasons for this. What they're really telling you is they just won't fight for it. Well, health care is a basic human right, and I will fight for basic human rights.
Well, that's one hell of an answer, but it's one hell of a different answer than she gave to the New York Times, that she gave at that CNN town hall. And by the way, Zerlina Maxwell says, I don't know how Bernie's going to do it, but with Warren, I know how she's going to do it. In what world, in any of the clips I just showed you, does Elizabeth Warren describe how she's going to provide Medicare for all? What she said was, I'm with Bernie, meaning I'm with Bernie's plan. She co-sponsored. She was one of the co-sponsors on Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan. Is that one of the I have a plan that she took from Bernie Sanders? Again, some of her plans are her own. She came up with them. She deserves credit for some of them. I think her plan to break up Amazon and Facebook and all that is terrific. Great plan. Bernie should do the same thing. But this bullshit on MSNBC and other places that, oh, I know how she's going to do it, and she's much more specific and all this, it's propaganda. And this is from someone who would vote for her if it came down to that. If you don't want to vote for her, don't vote for her. I don't really care. I don't tell people, unlike some outlets, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. We're all adults. You vote for whoever you want. But it's just an alternate reality. And of course, the anchor doesn't push it, but it all manufactures consent for Warren and discontent for Bernie. So it seeps into the mainstream that Bernie's just tossing out ideas with no idea how he's going to get any of it done, no ideas how to pay for it, when that's just not true. It's not. Here's the other thing. Bernie Sanders has offered specifics. I'm going to put this in the super chat for those of you who want to actually be bored and read it. Bernie Sanders has offered specifics on how to pay for Medicare for all, how he's going to transform the system. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he gives several options, and he calls them options because he would have to negotiate it. So you could have a 7.5% income-based premium paid by employers. So employers would pay 7.5%, basically a tax. Revenue raised $3.9 trillion over 10 years. Businesses would save over $9,000 in healthcare costs for the average employee under this option. He also has a 4% income-based premium paid by households, $3.5 trillion over 10 years. Typical middle-class family would save over $4,400 under this plan. Savings from health tax expenditures. Several tax breaks that subsidize healthcare would become obsolete and disappear under for Medicare for All. The biggest health expenditure is the preference that excludes employer-paid premiums from payroll and income tax. Options to make the wealthy pay for their fair share. Make the personal income tax more progressive. Revenue raised $1.8 trillion over 10 years. Under this plan, the marginal income tax rate would be 40% on income between $250,000 and $500,000, 45% on income between $500,000 and $2 million, 50% on income between $2 million and $10 million. So it's all right there. It's all right there. Bernie Sanders has been specific. To be fair, and I've criticized Bernie, I don't always think when he does interviews or even at the debate, he's been explaining Medicare for All 100% effectively. Because in the debate, if you remember, he said, well, you save money on healthcare. No. What Bernie Sanders simply needs to do is put his hand up, say, look, Savannah Guthrie, look, Jake Tupperware at the CNN debate, if you pay $15,000 a year for your family in healthcare, from the money they take out of your paycheck for your health care, from the copays, the deductibles, the co-insurance, the hidden costs that come up. If you pay $15,000, okay? And instead of that, you're going to pay an extra $10,000 as a family in income in taxes, okay? So to pay for Medicare for All, you would have to pay an extra $10,000 a year in taxes. The $15,000 you're paying for healthcare, gone like the wind. What is left is the $10,000 in tax increases. Is that a tax increase or a tax cut? That's a tax cut. And the problem is, the corporate media is spinning it, but premiums, copays, deductible, the money that's taken out of your paycheck for your employer-based health insurance, it is a tax. It's just called something else. So what generally would you call it if you're saving money? So if the $15,000 is gone and the $10,000 tax increase is there, it's a cut. It's savings. And I don't think he's explained that optimally. I think Fez Shakir, his campaign manager, has. So if anyone in the Bernie campaign watches me, that's my 2 cents. So it's just lie after lie after lie after lie by MSNBC, and it's nauseating after a while. But that wasn't even the worst of it. And by the way, what I just did, what I just showed you on how Elizabeth Warren isn't more specific on how she's going to transform the Medicare for All system or the healthcare system, even though Zerlina Maxwell, a brainless pundit, said so, and the anchor didn't challenge her, it took me 5 minutes to find all that. So it's not at all hard for these journalists or these pundits to find the truth. They willfully, intentionally are lying. And that's dangerous. And that's not journalism. That's propaganda.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.